in case you're wondering, that is supposed to be me. I wonder if I look a little heavier or lighter than that. I need to have a word with whoever drew this. You know, they say problems create creative geniuses. If there was no darkness, maybe Edison wouldn't have invented the light bulb. And if there wasn't a need to communicate long distance, maybe Graham Bell would not have had the opportunity to discover the phone, invent the phone. And maybe if we did not have the problems we have in our area, we may not have given B.G. Sridhar the opportunity to bring out the internal cartoonist in him. Take a look at this. Unless you lived here in the area, you would not appreciate the humor in this. And here he depicts a drama queen who's been brought to Vartur Lake. She's an actress. She was promised a trip to Switzerland. Anybody that is aware of Vartur Lake or Belantur Lake understands the foam situation and how it looks like snow in the background. He also takes pot shots at ministers who say that potholes in Bangalore are not the reason for so many accidents. It is, in fact, the citizens themselves that are driving pretty badly. But jokes aside, this is really Vartur Lake, and that is really toxic foam. And these are real pictures that we've taken, and we take them often. In fact, that foam got into somebody's eye, and they nearly lost their eye. They had to have 6 surgeries, and now he has some minimal sight there. And that is a case we know. And there are numerous such cases that we don't know anything about. Garbage, everyday affair. Open drains, another everyday affair. Here's an interesting thing on the right-hand side. You see this sticking out of a transformer pole? That actually is, it would come up to this height for me. And a younger child, it could probably decapitate their head because that is straight on the footpath, directly in the way of a pedestrian. It's an interesting picture, isn't it? And a most common one for many of you over here. Road is dug up. That poor lady is already in crutches, maybe because of an accident that has been caused by the road in the first place. She can't walk on the footpath because footpaths are not pedestrian friendly, really. And now she can't walk on the side of the road either because somebody has dug the road and gone away without fixing the road with impunity. But that was still better than this. You see, there are still people here, thousands, living on roads like this, where there is no road, there is no tar. This actually depicts traffic here in the Whitefield area. Sometimes it has taken us 3 hours to do 6 kilometers. This is the reality. There's a reason the TEDx here has been held on a Sunday. And all this actually results in a huge amount of air pollution. This is a real reading. This is not Delhi. This is Bangalore. And if you think what's happening in Delhi is not going to come to Bangalore, it is imminent. These are real pictures that we have ourselves taken. What is going on? What is happening to us and our country? We produce all kinds of geniuses. I mean, we have Nobel Prize winners. We gave the world Gandhiji and the idea of non-violence. We fought for years before we got our freedom. All those people that died more than 70 years ago, all of those people that are protecting this country and are out on the borders serving us all, how would they feel and how must they be feeling as they see this is what has happened to India? Are we indifferent? Could it be that we are actually indifferent? You know, this tree is an example of a tree that triggered me. I was going by this tree often, and its limbs were regularly being cut. And it was at a time about 5 years ago where there was news across Bangalore that trees were just being cut overnight. Many of you may remember This was around Ejipura, Koramangala areas. And I was watching a tree just like this. This is not the actual tree. I was watching a tree just like this every day as I went by. And it was steadily being cut. And suddenly it occurred to me, was I indifferent? So I actually Googled the term indifference. And what I found changed my life. There's an amazing speech that all of you must read. It's by Elie Wiesel, who was a Jewish Holocaust survivor. And he said one thing. He said, it was actually better in relative comparison to have experienced what he did in the concentration camps versus coming out and finding out that people were indifferent. Because you see, the whole time he was suffering in those concentration camps, he felt that if only somebody knew, it could not be possible that they would leave me lying over here. They would see our children dying. No way. People care. It's because they don't know. And then he came out. He was finally liberated. He was delighted to see the anger in the eyes of those that liberated him and those that were still surviving. But he came out and he eventually found out that people knew and still no action was taken. Was I indifferent to a problem? I know there's a problem, and I'm not acting on it. But then I realized I am not indifferent, and Elie Wiesel was wrong. People are not indifferent. People care. But what they are is they are indignant. I was indignant. I felt the government needs to be resolving this. Why am I, the citizen, supposed to be doing all this? I was in acceptance. This is India. This is what you get. I was definitely in ignorance. I didn't even know how the system worked. I had no idea who to call if something was to be resolved. I didn't even know if I called, some effect would happen. I was definitely lacking initiative. I was busy with my life. I was definitely in fear. People would say, why are you going after this tree? If you do something, there will be gundas that will come after you. And there was a general feeling of helplessness. I am alone. What can I do? But then, if I am alone and I can't do anything, then who am I waiting for to come and resolve this? Whose responsibility was it going to be to come and solve these problems? Would it be a guy like this? I mean, he barely has the ability to have 2 square meals a day for himself and his family. And am I waiting for somebody like him that forms a large percentage of the population of India to be coming and solving a problem that I saw? I looked around and I found that I was the only one in the circle I knew that hadn't yet made a change, that hadn't yet begun an initiative. This lady, many of you may recognize, her name is Manju Mehra. For years now, she simply woke up, became part of this traffic warden organization that is run by Bangalore Traffic Police officially, and she's been on the roads every single day, just doing her work, volunteering. This is Tarun, another neighbor. That number 610, remember that. A huge number of kids from the area who are school dropouts, who may have gotten into drugs, into alcohol, or simply been deemed worthless by their families or society. He encourages them to come to a class, and he helps them graduate in 6 months, where people teach all those children during the 6 months things like time management, ethics, computers, English, self-respect, confidence. And they come out like shining stars. That's Vinod before he joined that program. And this is him today, actually giving his finals for his chartered accountancy exam. That is Sumedha. She's actually here in the audience. Long before I even woke up to my lack of initiative, she and a team of 70 volunteers had already been working in 6 government schools, teaching over 2,500 kids. They were teaching English, but they were teaching beyond English. They actually demonstrated that they cared. And anytime there was a need or a problem, they would reach out to the extended community for support. But there's other types of individual stars. This guy suddenly got the inspiration that he has the technical expertise to help out people who were stressed out when the government suddenly decided that if your house was on a stormwater drain, then it was deemed an encroachment. Remember that they were given approvals in the first place by the government, but the government suddenly woke up and said it would be an encroachment, and they would simply come with a bulldozer and bulldoze it down. So what he did, used technology, created a website, and all you had to do was log into that website, not even log in, just go there, put your address in, and it would tell you if your house was on a stormwater drain or not. Because you see the records from the government, it was very hard to pull that out and actually visit a local office to pick that up and see if your house was encroaching or not. So many people could sleep for weeks because of his effort. So all this gave us the idea that you don't actually have to engage in grand heroic actions to participate in the process of change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. But the key word here is multiplied. You see, Shiv, Tarun, Manju, and Sumedha were doing brilliant things on their own. But on their own, without amplification, the impact was going to be just that, small and local. We looked around and said, oh my God, there's already other groups that are doing amazing things. The Ugly Indians. There can't be anybody in Bangalore that hasn't heard of them. They simply go and transform places with Mu, Bandh, Kam Chalu attitude. There's a lake that's been rejuvenated right around us. There's groups that have been valiantly fighting for better rail systems here. We looked around and said, man, there's people doing good stuff. Maybe, just maybe, we could do that too. The solution wasn't bringing it all together. That's it. That was the birth of Whitefield Rising. Few people came together, initially about 50 people, and said, you know what, all these solutions that exist out there, let's figure out if we can divide it amongst ourselves. Let's go learn. If we can take it from somebody else who's already figured it out, great. If not, we'll figure it out. Bring it all together and see if we can be one platform from which all these amazing ideas can be implemented for impact. Didn't matter that we were a very small group then, just literally 1% or less if you took a sample size of any area. Maybe somebody who is working for you, you know what, I don't really want all this, and she readily says, I'll take it all, and she actually has no use for it. We said, what if we found use for every item that we didn't want and kept it within the local area? So 2 enterprises started. One is an existing one called Karnashaya, which is a hospice, and it's a second store where you can give things and they resell it for really small amounts. The other is Restore. So we sent this walking stick for someone in need, and here he is using it. Similarly, you can rent instead of buy. And these are all initiatives from geniuses amongst us. So the learning was, if we really took it far, there was a heck of a lot of things we could do, but for true impact, we really needed all of us to be doing this. The bigger learning was the government could be persuaded, and look at the balance, guys. The people are currently on the left and not in control. And the government is the one in control. And why is that? Because only a few people are demanding that change. And if we all demanded that change, this is what could happen. Because who is the government? The government is who we actually elect. So if we, at an individual level, bring some change, segregation, voter drive, not paying a bribe, there is some impact. If we can do it at our apartment complex level, you saw that, 1,500 people not generating any garbage. Isn't that amazing? But you see, at a neighborhood level is where the change truly starts impacting. Can you imagine if what Nellore Rising did, if every area took on these initiatives of their own? Doesn't take much, does it? Other people have figured it out. All you have to do is spend a little bit of time. And if we did that, the impact is automatically at the ward level, at the constituency level, and the city level. That is the magic. So change is possible. And the model is leverage all solutions and create more Nellore Risings. And they are emerging. Look at this. ECC Road, Brookfield Layout Residence, Dubarhalli Extension, Vibgyor Road, Spandana, Vartur Rising, all in different degrees of maturity. And they are going to change. They are going to change our ward, they are going to change our constituency, and thus they will change our city. How does it all happen? Is it just that you come together and it all works out? Then you could be an RWA, right? RWAs have already existed. Why are RWAs not as successful? Because there is a special secret ingredient. All these four are actually here in the room today. But this is what makes it work. And this is the essence of why so far we have been successful. First is, we joke, you have to be NIMHAN certified. You have to be crazy. You have to take responsibility, because we have people coming up to us and saying, Whitefield Rising, why haven't you fixed my road? I'm supposed to come fix your road? No, the model is about you figuring out how you fix your road, and we take a learning from you back in turn for our own road. There's no personal agenda. None of them has a business to sell to this network to. None of them is part of a political party. They build credibility because they're hands-on. They do work themselves. They do a little, they do a lot, no one cares. How much they do is how much they are able to contribute, either because of their capability or their time or whatever else. Watch that ego. You see, 5 years in, when you've achieved all this, suddenly you walk with a swagger. Nobody likes that. And unless you have fun, you have teamwork, nobody wants to work with you. And if you can't work in a group, it's not going to work. No praise. You have to be a follower sometimes. Many of these people will simply follow when someone else is leading. But many of us are also leaders. They take charge and readily get followers because of who they are. They're often in the background. There's no hierarchy, can you believe it? This is not an organization, this is a movement. There is no one person leading this movement, because every person needs to lead themselves. It's a model that we all follow. And most important, they're unassuming. No compromise on ethics, inclusive, humble. Stay non-partisan, it is simple. So, are you rising? Can you rise? All you have to do is go to this website where a lot of the problems that we have solved have been documented. You can log in, create your own identity. Your identity, this is our identity called Whitefield Rising. Make your own. You can be that change. Because if we are trying to get here, unless there is an amplification, a few people will continue to toil. Many of us will continue this no matter what the impact is, because that is what we want to do. As I said, we are selfish, not selfless. We enjoy doing this. Thank you.